inventory done, and today is May 31st, so it is time for the May edition of my garden update, which is a once per month, I'm shooting it at the end of the month, update of what is growing in my garden. It's a project that I'm embarking on during the great coronavirus pandemic of 2020. So let's take a tour. So here you can see we're in front of my house in Framingham, right in the Knobscot neighborhood of Framingham. And we've got a garden bed where we've got a few annuals and mostly perennials. I like cut flowers, I like making bouquets, so we've kind of got an eye for planting things that produce a lot of nice cut flowers and also attract pollinators. We don't use any pesticides on our lawn or in our yard or anything like that. We see a lot of hummingbirds, a lot of beautiful butterflies, and we'd like to keep it that way. So let me just show you some plants that are going strong here. This is a penastrum, also known as beard tongue. It hasn't bloomed yet, but it has little white tubular flowers that hummingbirds like. Right. Got some annuals here, right? Especially some petunia, some marigold. I did grow some sunflowers. Here's one. From seed, and some zinnia from seed. They won't really do much for blooming until probably late July. Got some salvia that's starting to bloom. Our first bearded irises, the yellow ones, are really pretty right there. Right. We have a few varieties of false indigo. This one actually has a yellow blossom. It's just about to bloom. We've got some columbine right here. Few different varieties of sedum. This one is nice, it has variegated leaves, which I always enjoy. Right. Got a bunch of milkweed growing in here, which both provides food for monarch butterfly caterpillars and then attracts all sorts of pollinators when it blooms. Some hardy geraniums, some daylilies. Got more zinnia in there. Got a couple dahlias in the garden. I dig up the tubers in the fall and then keep them in the garage over the winter and then replant them in the spring, and they bloom later in the summer. Got a rose bush here. A couple of garden ornaments I got for Mother's Day. These glow at night. They change color. They're kind of neat. Got a lot of peony in the yard that are just starting to bloom. This is one of our first bloomers right here. Almost looks like a rose bush. Our pink variety is just about to bloom here. Show that. Lots of varieties of sage. They're really hardy. They spread like crazy. This one is kind of an enormous bush at this point. More peony, some zinnia. Right, our azaleas are just about at the end of their bloom cycle. Right, this is a large spirea bush, which is just about to bloom. Has nice pink flowers. It actually produced another bush that I'll show you in a minute. It's just a seedling. Our rhododendrons are just about at the end of our bloom area. This is our shade garden here. Got a couple varieties of hydrangea. Some azalea. Oh, that's the azalea. This is the astilbe, sorry about that. Some Siberian iris, just about to bloom. Lots of varieties of hosta, a massive bleeding heart. Variety of perennials that can grow in shade. More astilbe, right? That's called a monk's hood plant right there. I like this bright green hosta that we have here. Our columbine did really, really well this year. This started from one plant that reseeded and created more plants, so that was quite exciting. A couple other shade perennials back here and more hosta, and another batch of Siberian iris, which is, you can see the buds on it just about to bloom. There's our azalea. We've got a weeping cherry that helps produce the shade over here. This actually used to be a sunny spot, but now our Japanese maple's gotten so big that it's become more shady. Got another azalea that's just at the end of its bloom life. More Siberian iris, more hosta. more sedum. Got a bunch of coreopsis here, which will have little yellow blossoms when they bloom. Butterfly bush. These are some neat white columbine. Look at those. All right, more stilbe as well. In our front bed, this actually is another spirea that was the spawn of the first bush. Let's call it son of spirea. More bearded iris that haven't bloomed yet. This peony bush is quite impressive. I think it's going to have some beautiful blossoms within a day or two. Most of the plants in here, some daylily, but then a lot of monarda. It's a red bee balm flower. As soon as it blooms, we get a tremendous amount of hummingbirds who come, and it's their favorite flower. Also, we've got a butterfly bush. We get a lot of monarch butterflies attracted to this area of the yard. Got another salvia blooming here. The peony just about to go. More penistrum or beard's tongue. Another salvia. Another peony. All right. Got a couple of coral bells or one's there, one's here. Just put another one over here. And then I like to do something that other family members don't necessarily approve of, but I like to hide an occasional vegetable. Okay, here is a zucchini squash. Also got some little baby tomatoes that I grew from seed in the front bed as well. Right, sometimes they do okay, sometimes not, we'll see. Here's a little front feature of our garden, right in front of the front door of the house, and got a rhododendron that's a little bit past its prime at the moment. We definitely have more of our milkweed back there to attract butterflies. Planter. Some nice shrubs. We've got a Japanese plum, hardy hydrangea. Right here is a rose of Sharon, a few more shrubs, a couple big blue hydrangeas. Right, this is just about to bloom here. False indigo. Right. So here we are in the backyard of our house. We have a very small house, 1,300 square feet, but we have a big yard, so it's almost half an acre. And then we back up against swamp and woodlands that are owned by the town of Framingham. So it's very quiet back here, which is nice. And one of the features of living in a small house during a pandemic when everyone's home all the time is I've been spending a lot of time outside gardening. So let's go over here. So I've been giving a lot of this away. We kind of have endless supplies of lily of the valley, right? But it's a nice ground cover in the shade here along the side yard. My mom gave me this little baby apple tree this year, which looked like literally a stick when she handed it to me in April, and it's already got some nice leaves, and I think it's gonna do okay. Here's our Asian pear tree that's probably about 6 years old. It's a small pear tree, kind of lists to the side. It's a weird looking tree. It produces a lot of fruit though. So we probably got about 100 Asian pears. We're definitely gonna get even more this year. See them there and doing well. They're really nice. They're very crisp and they're shaped like apples. This tree has just been an awesome thing for us. So it's a red pear variety, and it produces just a bountiful amount of fruit, full-size pears that are absolutely delicious. Has a lot on it right now. So you can see we'll get a lot of pears in the late summer off of this tree. Okay, so this is not a native plant. It is the only pine variety that drops its needles in the winter, and it is a redwood tree, native of California and the West Coast. So it'll be 200 feet and 200 yards, and I bought it when it was about a 1 foot long stick that was on sale for $5 at our local nursery. And I don't know if it fits with the landscape, but it sure sucks up a lot of water, which is great. The back of our yard used to flood a bit, and it hasn't for years thanks to the rain gardens Adam put in and a couple trees that suck up a lot of water. Also back here, one of these trees is definitely a preferred roosting site for a local barred owl. So every night at around 1:30 in the morning, I hear it calling and probably hunting. It stops and rests in one of these trees while it looks for a snack. Okay, back here we've got two sections of our backyard that Adam put together a couple years ago that are rain gardens designed for plants that can have wet feet and tolerate them well, and will suck up a lot of water. All right. We've also got a clematis vine along the back fence that'll have nice purple blossoms very, very soon. This is actually a variety of a swamp magnolia. This is a variety of willow that can have wet feet. We've got a blueberry bush back here. Some astilbe, more iris varieties. This I'm really excited about. So this is our blackberry area. So these are large blackberries and they're in bloom now. So the blossoms are really huge. So you can see the size of my hand and the size of a blossom, right? So each one of these blossoms will produce a single blackberry, and these are very large blackberries. They're really delicious. Over here we've got a few baby plants. We're trying something with service berries and bush cherries. So we'll see how they do. Right. More blackberries I put in over here. Got a patch of blueberries in here. We put in another pear tree this past fall, and it actually already has some little pears on it. So these will be grapes. Oops, that was not intended. A little green pear. We've got two apple trees. This is one of them in the backyard. A very pretty blooming, I believe you pronounce it Weigelia, all right? It's Weigela. My friend Julie gave me this plant and it was very small, and now it's thriving. I've got a bed of potatoes growing here, just grocery store potatoes that had sprouted, and I planted them and buried them with soil, and they should be ready to harvest probably late July. So we have a grape arbor. There's two grapevines that are alive and doing well. You can see they've got some fresh sprouts on them. You have to cut them way back at the end of the season. Another peony back here, right? Another hydrangea variety. Got our compost bin. We have a couple compost bins. That's one of them. This ended up rather unintentionally being a mint. So here's our mint and asparagus bed. We've been harvesting a few stalks of asparagus a day, which is kind of exciting. We just usually throw them on a salad or something at dinner time. Here's for an example what one might look like when we harvest it. Our apricot tree, which we planted last fall, and we're delighted it came back. Here's the most exciting thing. Actually has one apricot growing on it. I didn't even know that apricots could grow in New England, so this was an exciting discovery, and I'm thinking we'll add a second tree so there'll be better pollination for next year. We extended our garden by a couple of feet this year to add an herb garden at the base. So in there I've got basil that we planted from seed, dill that we planted from seed. It's also a nice yellow flower that attracts pollinators, and there's certain kinds of swallowtail butterflies that like to nibble on dill, so that's cool. We've got some cilantro that we grew from seed, some zinnia in here, some oregano that we're growing from seed. I bought and planted a thyme plant and a rosemary plant. We also have chives and a low bush blueberry plant. Sunflowers that we grew from seed. A couple nice echinacea coneflower plants that definitely attract small birds and butterflies when they bloom. Some kale. Right, a couple more blueberry plants in here. We've got two plants that are a different variety of butterfly plant and a nice orange flower. Got a couple of cucumbers back here, and then our peas. Over here, we've got our red raspberry bed, which is, I probably gave 10 to 15 people raspberries this year, just digging out of the front of it. They definitely spread, and we're looking forward to getting our bounty of red raspberries. Probably early July is when we'll start seeing them. In our garden bed here, all right, we've got a lot of fencing up temporarily, right, for our peas to climb. So we planted the peas from seed. As soon as the snow is off the soil, so late March, I've got a big rhubarb in there. And then I've got 4 gooseberry plants as well, and some flowers too. So the gooseberries actually this is our first year with them. I planted them last fall. They do have a few little berries on them, which is kind of exciting. I've actually never even eaten a gooseberry, but I was interested about the idea of starting something new. So here's one of the gooseberry plants. There's another, and we've got one more hiding down here amongst the peas. All right, walking by our raspberries. Got 2 blueberry bushes, large ones, high bush blueberries over here. You can see that there's all sorts of baby blueberries on them. We're gonna have to come up with some new techniques for keeping the varmints and birds away from them. I feel like for every blueberry we get to eat, a chipmunk eats about 10 of them. And then we've got some catbirds that really like them too and seem to migrate to this area just when our blueberries are getting ripe. So more blueberry plants up here. And then this is our last garden bed, which has 4 currant plants, which we planted last year. Also have some baby currants on them, so that's kind of exciting. We've never had currant fruit before. We've got more peas in here, another rhubarb plant, some more sunflowers, and then 2 peach trees. One I planted at the end of last year, and one is now 3 years old. But this is the first year that we've had fruit on it, so it has a whole lot of little baby peaches. So hopefully they'll ripen, and maybe we'll get to harvest some peaches from our yard this year. That would be really exciting. And finally, here's our other apple tree, which is doing real well and definitely produces a lot of apples each year. That's it. Thanks for coming along on our May garden tour. You'll see me again at the end of June with another update.